Hello, fine people. I think I'm going to attempt to talk about sexuality and relationships. This is probably going to be a part one if it's good enough to publish. So I guess the first place I want to go is pornography, because pornography plays a kind of role in the sexual conversation now that we don't often address fully. So how shall I do this? Because there's a lot of assumptions built into pornography. A lot of assumptions we have that we're trying to defragment. But when we defragment them, we don't often have a holistic theory with which to put everything back together. So what I'm referring to is there's pornography on the one hand, there's feminism. I'm not going to touch on homosexuality, though that's another dimension, as is queer theory, which is a different thing, surprisingly, but it is. Okay. Let me start by saying that feminism need not be, how do I say this? Feminism is, if we are using postmodernism to get to feminism, to deconstruct that which has come before in order to create kind of a new foundation, a new social foundation, then we have to recognize that feminism itself can be deconstructed, that everything can be deconstructed. If you have a way to avoid that, I'd love to hear it. But so far as I can tell, what feminism attempts to do is show how to deconstruct the prevailing narrative and then replace it with one which more and more is one which has very little to do with reason and evidence and is more about feelings. So it's rhetorical. But I'm fine with rhetorical. I'm fine with having rhetoric so far as, but I don't think logic can be abandoned in favor of rhetoric. I think you have to have both. Rhetoric is kind of the way of seeing the world as a whole, as something that we can live by, but it needs to be tempered by logic, just as logic has to be tempered by rhetoric, if you will. I think I recognize people try to use rhetoric to do ill, to persuade people in bad ways, but I would also argue that people use logic that same way. They kind of sanitize feelings and humanity from an argument and then try to find this supposed neutral ground from which to argue. I'm not talking about sexuality at all, am I? I'm going through all these preliminary epistemological arguments. Okay, so be it. I think I'm almost done, though. So if we can understand that feminism, some forms of feminism, again, it's not a monolith, it's a polylith. Sometimes it's a set of monoliths and polyliths. So see another video of mine. Look that one up if you want to know what I'm talking about there. But there is a monolith or polylith within feminism that tries to make a rhetorical argument and deconstruct all logical arguments. And what I want to say is that if we can understand feminism as a valid position, but not necessarily the one that has to trump all other positions, which is what we seem to be trying to do right now, which to a certain degree I'm fine with, if we understand that is a season that we are going through. We are going through a season of deconstructing, patriarchal structures, but with in order to not replace them with feminist structures, but to allow more feminist structures in. I'm fine with that. But to say there is no room in society whatsoever for male structures, even traditional male structures, I think, is a big mistake. We have to have a truly a truly diverse society, not simply an externally diverse society which has a monoculture internally, whereas if you're not agreeing with the monolithic feminist or deconstructed or queer theory or whatever it is, whatever the left is attempting to do right now, the far left, I guess I could say, we have to understand that that's just another option. And then I'm fine with it. I'm fine with saying, yeah, you can have that position. I won't always agree with what you're doing with it, but I'm not going to say you can't exist, just like you shouldn't say I can't exist. Okay. And a lot of that, just a quick divergence, a lot of that is built upon the idea that everything is about opposition, right? That everything is a power struggle. Yeah, you can see the world as a power struggle, but if you only see the world as a power struggle, you will be locked forever in a power struggle with everyone. Like, power struggles cannot resolve unless you are the dominant one. But to be the dominant one, you have to literally dominate everyone. And if that can't happen, the only way I know how that can happen is either you persuade everyone, which they're not doing a good job of, or you have to kill everyone else, or somehow enslave them, which would be super ironic if the far left enslaves everyone under their rhetoric, through whatever, maybe not through the government, but through social means, through cancel culture. Anyway, I'll get off that topic and back on the topic at hand. Boy, I guess that was all a necessary introduction, because otherwise I can't talk about this topic. All right, so feminism. Again, if you're not in an oppositional mindset, then you can recognize that feminism, the female nature, can be seen both as a natural factor and a social factor, a nature and a nurture factor, a biological factor and a social factor. Now, of course, I'll say this one last time and I'll try to get off the topic. The far left appears to be wanting to deny the biological factor because that cuts off any logical argument about nature, about the nature of women, and allows for them to then create a rhetorical social argument, which will attempt to dominate all others in an oppositional power struggle. And I'm claiming we have to go beyond opposition. We can't use opposition because we will destroy ourselves in a oppositional paradigm. That's why we are still ramping up towards self-destruction. With our weapons, with our pollution of the environment, etc., because we haven't truly figured out how to do a non-rivalrous methodology of social engineering and understanding each other, which is what the Betterment Project and Game A and a lot of other projects that are brewing right now are trying to do. Okay, so, sorry. Women. Beautiful women, amazing women. There are biological facts about women, and there are biological facts about men which relate to women. That we are lock and key, we are yin and yang. We can call a certain amount of that, a degree of that, social engineering or social habit, or whichever, I don't care how. Some of it may be socially strong fact about our social being that is almost impossible to overcome. Some of it, I think, is completely malleable, and I think we should be in a mindset of being of not introverting but individuating, such that we are not being manipulated by social engineering, but we are allowing our social engineering. We are making a society, right? We're not individuating away from each other, but we are individuating as we become interdependent in such a way that we can keep our society and our culture and our environment, this spaceship Earth that we could completely annihilate, leaving ourselves without a spaceship to travel through space with. We got to save that thing. We don't know how to leave it yet. Maybe we'll get there, but we don't really. We're not there yet. Okay, so I'm sorry. I feel like all of this is necessary. Maybe this is just going to be all preliminary. But let's see if I can get to the first statement I'm trying to make. That there is a biological difference between men and women. And there is a range of social overlap and physical overlap, biological overlap. But there's also a range of social and biological difference. And that is going to play a huge role in sexuality and relationship. Okay, I think that's all I'm going to say for this episode. Thank you.